I think there are going to be two main categories. There's going to be the integrated AI CRMs, and then there's going to be the AI overlays. I mainly work in like small RIA space, like under 1 billion, maybe even under 500 million. But the really big RIAs, they're not going to switch off their CRM anytime soon. So they're much more likely to overlay AI features based on what I've heard than they are to, start looking at a CRM that has these features built indirectly. And so based on all my hypothesizing, I think that's the direction a lot of the bigger, like Zox, Jump, Mili are going to go, is to be like an AI overlay tool for the CRMs as opposed to building their own CRM.
Welcome to AI for Advisors with Mark Heinen and James Cantwell. Every week, Mark and James break down the latest in the world of wealth tech and AI, and occasionally bring in guests to spice things up. This is not investment advice and not professionally produced. I am not real and not yet sentient. Now let's get on with the show.
Welcome to our first emergency pod of AI for Advisors, and we're lucky to be joined here by Joe. James cannot make it today. He has some other commitments. But the main reason we wanted to do this is because we did see an announcement over the end of last week, specifically by Mili, talking about the fact they have a relationship with Redtail and are integrating into Redtail quite deeply. And so that prompted Joe and I to get in touch with each other. Many of you know Joe from his work, obviously publishing one of the most popular books for choosing your tech stack, but then also categorizing note takers, his famous spreadsheet on actually the integrations that note takers have. And I thought it'd be good to talk through what happened and what it means. And so thank you, Joe. Thank you for joining us. Let me start by maybe setting the stage a little bit with what was actually announced, and we will then basically dig into what it means. So the announcement from Chirag is as follows. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay. Mili partners with Orion and Redtail Technology. Coincidentally, listen to Reed Colley on AI for Advisors podcast. His take: advisors juggle 12 plus systems and they should focus on their clients. Thanks for the shout out, Chirag. Really appreciate it. More detail further down. He says what this means for Redtail users. Every client meeting flows directly into your CRM. No manual entry or duplicate work. Just capture the conversation, watch it sync automatically. Client details, tasks, follow-ups, all exactly where they belong in Redtail. So that's the promise. And so, maybe let me start, Joe, by asking, how does this map with what you've seen happen among CRMs and note takers? And maybe if you could share a little more on your, the spreadsheet you've put together and where this puts Mili in relation to others in terms of where the state of their integrations are.
Yeah, no, for sure. Do you want me to go ahead and share then? I'll share the spreadsheet.
Yeah, please go for it. Please do. Yeah, for those listening in their cars, hop on YouTube when you get home, because this one's good to look at visually.
Yeah, so one afternoon, I don't know, several months ago, I sat down and I was like, let me just make a list of all the note takers and what features they have. And this has been one of the most popular posts I've done. And so you can see like the prep note-taking templates are kind of like the most common features. And then as I come over, we've got some scarcer stuff. And then I tried to grab some pricing info. But then actually just this weekend, I started adding integration information because we were chatting about this and I was like, it would be interesting to know who integrates with who. And I'm just capturing this data from websites mostly, not like official integration lists. The other thing I'm realizing is like...
You're not using each of these and testing it yourself, to be clear. So this is just based on what's stated and marketed, to be really clear.
Yep, for sure. And also, like, if you ask a company who they integrate with, how do I know they're telling the truth? Because the truth is a little fuzzy sometimes.
Right.
So the CRMs, obviously, Salesforce and Wealthbox are the most commonly integrated with, and then Redtail is coming in behind them. So I think that makes sense that, CRMs are the main thing that the AI note takers integrate first with. Here are the CRMs across the top. Here are the note takers down the left side.
Mm-hmm.
And then down at the bottom, I kind of have how many of each. Salesforce and Wealthbox with 19, Redtail with 16.
Yep. I'll just make a note here that Knapsack is integrated with Wealthbox. We don't have it on our website. You're 100% correct. There's no way you would have known until you logged in. So good to know.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. And that's why like keeping a spreadsheet like this would be a lot of work to like keep it accurate all the time. But I like to do it. I like to do it at a point in time get some attention around what's going on and then maybe update it later on.
Yeah, I think there might even be a way for you to like enable people to comment on it. I don't know if this is signing up for trouble, but like if someone updates it, you might be able to then
Oh yeah.
review, decide whether to add. Right? It's sort of a wiki approach. We also have Salesforce, by the way, but not here to quibble. Yeah, so I guess the really the big picture question is what is the future for this? Let's say Mili and Redtail have this very deep integration. I imagine there may be other integrations like this that Redtail are pursuing. There may not be. It may be something that is a little more on the exclusionary side. I was in touch with Chirag. I don't have any information there. I'm going to leave it for the Redtail and Mili to, basically announce that. But I think I would love your take on like the relationship operating system, this idea that has come up. And we dutifully ask every CRM coming on to AI for Advisors if they're building a note taker. And we ask every note taker if they're building a CRM.
Right.
We're just doing God's work here. But like, I'm just curious, like, where do you think this will end up in a year or two? What is your take?
I think there are going to be two main categories. There's going to be the integrated AI CRMs, and then there's going to be the AI overlays. Jump has made it very clear they don't want to build a CRM, so they're definitely going the overlay route. And I think the more I understand, I mainly work in like small RIA space, like under a billion, maybe even under 500 million.
Mm-hmm.
But the really big RIAs, they're not going to switch off their CRM anytime soon. So they're much more likely to overlay AI features based on what I've heard than they are to, start looking at a CRM that has these features built indirectly. And so based on all my hypothesizing, I think that's the direction a lot of the bigger like Zox, Jump, Mili are going to go, is to be like an AI overlay tool for the CRMs as opposed to building their own CRM.
But do you think end users will use both an overlay and a CRM going forwards, or do you think they'll choose between them? I mean, is there a way to use an overlay without a CRM?
Well, in your conversation with Cognicore, I can't remember her name off the bat, but
Dr. Sindhu, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, she basically said they don't need Redtail anymore. So that's a whole new category, is where the AI note taker or the AI overlay becomes the source of truth, which maybe that gets into your question about the relationship operating system. For me, I think...
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no question that you're onto something in that these note takers have the opportunity to build a relationship operating system. And, the labels may expire or not be relevant anymore, but there's definitely a need for something that has full context on relationships and acts like a system of action. And you need something that is a system of record. And the question is, are those multiple tools? Is it one tool? If we really fast forward 2 or 3 years, where will that net out?
Yeah. No, I was actually thinking about like writing a parody this weekend. If you're onboarding a new tool and they say, all right, the first thing we need to integrate with is your email and calendar, you're like, oh, good. Now we're going to get some real work done. If the first thing they say is, hey, we need to integrate with your CRM, they'd be like, well, you mean that like dumpster fire way out there in the back?
Well, let me go dust that off.
Right. And they'll be like, yeah, that thing. There's nothing connected to it. Don't worry. It's just way back there by itself. But it's just interesting. And then I'll kind of go on from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think James didn't articulate quite what he was trying to say in the article. And I think it's more around, instead of tables of households and contacts and accounts and billing schedules and like all that stuff, it's going to be, the core of it is going to be communication. So it's going to be emails, meeting notes, voicemails, texts, like any way that you communicate with a client is going to be captured. And that's going to become like the center of the system versus tables of contacts. That's my understanding, kind of what he was trying to say. Does that make more sense?
Yeah. And I think for me, there's like structured and unstructured data. And so a lot of the communications is effectively unstructured data that's really important and highly valuable. Sort of there's a lot of signal in that. Then there's some structured data that you pull out of that, which you just need to run your business. You need to know, the phone number of your clients. There's some really basic information you need. And so I think there's going to be a place where you have a system of record for all of that information. And then you're going to have some systems of action on top of it that are going to be taking action on that information. And the question is whether that's one tool or multiple tools. I think there's one interesting scenario where the CRMs basically just stay the system of record and the AI layers that you're talking about become the systems of action for the most part.
Yeah,
And even, the note takers, I mean, you have to make the assumption that the customers have some level of power here. So if they want something to happen, it'll eventually happen through APIs, et cetera. And so if advisors want to have really intelligent, insights before a meeting, if they want to have automated doc creation, whether that's proposals or financial plans, if they want to have automated follow-up emails, automated creation of year-end tax planning, if they want to have all those things, they will ask their tools to do it. And if the CRMs aren't implementing it fast enough, they will ask the CRMs to open up APIs to, the note takers to do that, or another AI overlay, right? So I do think that there is a significant chance that the CRMs stay the system of record for a while because they just have that, Lindy effect. They've just been around forever. And the overlays constantly become the system of action on top of it. And then eventually they basically build their own structured databases. So the CRM is optional. And then you end up in a weird situation where you might like have the CRM for a while, but then it's optional. And ultimately people can turn it off if they really need to. And that's probably something that people are excited about. They're excited to like not be so reliant on their CRM. The alternate scenario is that the CRMs get religion and basically put the systems of action deep, deep within their system, which is what I thought might be happening with Mili, honestly.
sure.
And, it has that potential because as you point out here, Mili is on the top of this list in terms of number of features, right? And so if it's all about finding features, then yeah, I could totally see that happening for certain select CRMs. Clearly Salesforce feels this way. They don't want to let people go elsewhere as the front end. Uh, and I feel that these tools are in a battle for people's attention. We're in this Hunger Games of SaaS where people are tired of having 35 tabs open. They want to have 5 tabs open. And honestly, we don't know which 5 tabs those are going to be. We don't know if it's definitely going to be email, right? The email just is not going anywhere, right? So outside of email, what are you going to have open,
There
right?
we go. That's a good question.
And yeah, I mean, everyone should look at their tabs right now and say like, which tabs do you have open that you really need? So you probably have your like LinkedIn open, right?
There you go.
Yeah, good. This is great. You have your AI note taker, then your custodian. You put the custodian in there. That's fantastic, right? So yeah, so let's talk about Hazel. So if you have Hazel, you don't need your calendar. You don't need your CRM anymore. You don't need your AI note taker because that's all Hazel, right?
Yeah, it's interesting you said you don't need your CRM anymore. I was on a call, like one of those expert calls, and they were referring to Altrist as a CRM, and I was like, Altrist isn't a CRM. But I think that's if you combine Altrist with Hazel, do you
Yet,
do you get a
yet.
version of a CRM yet?
Yeah, that's my point. I think there's like a language issue here where nothing happens in the short term, right? So we always need to think about what's going to happen in the next year or two.
Right.
In the short term, there's going to be tons of overlap. People are going to be using Hazel and they're going to be using Wealthbox side by side, and the two are going to sync, and it's all good, right? But ultimately, in the longer term, if you don't need your CRM because Hazel has all that contact information already embedded into it, why pay for a CRM, right? And, um, so I think Hazel is like a great example here. I think there's something interesting about LinkedIn as another example because LinkedIn has APIs, and a lot of CRMs try to be like your LinkedIn communication hub.
No, and
I
we
think
have
social media is a little bit off the side, right? Yeah, you have some integrations. They have an MCP server, right? You can use LinkedIn via Claude to some extent. I would say that, yeah, where do you think eMoney and Precise FP and Holistic Plan fit into these?
this was this kind of the secondary category of integrations. CRM, obviously, I'm personally rooting for CRM and AI in one. I mean, I think definitely for the smaller advisors, it's just why have two tools when one can do it better, and you get your system of record and system of action together. But very few have financial planning capabilities built in. I mean, there are a few, but the next two biggest integrations are, Right Capital, eMoney, Precise FP, and that I think is interesting Are these forward thinking CRMs going to start adding some financial planning capabilities as they build into this space? Or is financial planning going to remain like a separate tool?
Yeah. Do you think there's so much nuance in financial planning that it cannot be aggregated into these tools?
To some extent, yeah. Advison's building a financial planning tool, which I think makes sense, and Advison's building an AI note taker, which makes sense. But not everybody wants an Advison. Not everybody wants all of that in one system. So I do think, like I think Craig was saying on the Zero Basis Points podcast, best in breed. Sometimes some advisors want choice. They don't want to be forced to use whatever Advison has cooked up. They want to pick from all the smorgasbord and put it together themselves.
Yeah. Do you think that the advisors will end up demanding these integrations, being a lot more vocal to demand the integrations of their CRMs, right? So Advison is a great example of, a CRM that has traditionally not been willing to integrate.
Right.
But then, I can imagine advisors using April or using wealth.com or using Vanilla or any of these other things, right? And wanting to have those deep integrations. And at what point will there just be so much push from the advisors that they'll have to look more like Salesforce, which just says yes to everything?
Yeah. No, and it was interesting. I was on Wealthbox's integration page the other day, and they've almost got like a version of the Kits' map on there where, you pick your different categories and they have all their tools. I can show it if you want me to, but
Yeah.
I thought that,
Well, I think that they also are permissionless, right? Salesforce and Wealthbox are both permissionless, so you don't have to go through the gates of Mordor to basically do an integration necessarily.
yeah,
And that is definitely in the advisor's interests because they are able to immediately show interoperability with all these things, right? Which is fantastic, right? It really helps their clients, which I think is really good, really good. I think maybe then the next level up is the overlays, the new generation of overlays, your quills, your continuums, Sherpa, maybe another one. You might be familiar with these. Do these provide such a high level of integration that they're more appealing and they all have note takers built in, by the way. Are they more appealing than like, Jump or Zox or others because they have such a wider set of integrations and functionality?
whenever I look at those tools that maybe have like three different categories combined, a good example is Fast Tracker.
Okay. Yep.
They have meeting assistant, document processing, and onboarding. Whenever I look at that, and Time did this before Altruist bought them, they had like 5 different features, but then Altruist just pulled out the note taker feature. Sure that maybe they'll launch some of the other stuff later, but I think what I thought when I saw that was like, that's cool you have these features, but like only one of them fits into the rest of my workflow. So I don't really need you. I need something and I think that's going to be a struggle because, as people build into the stack and they start saying, hey, we'll do these 3 or 4 things for you, but this is, our way of doing it. Advisors have to choose, like, do I want to adopt their methodologies and how I run my business, or do I want, the choice that comes from picking each one individually?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So people are coming to these tools for a very specific thing. But I imagine that at some point, if it's integrated with the other tools you're using, there's also the convenience of just being able to have a single pane of glass across everything, right? And of course, all these companies need to build brand credibility and trust with the advisors. So they're starting from scratch there. And the question is, can they actually build that fast enough to get some level of trust so that people are sticking with them? What do you think is going to happen here? You have a number of people here who are horizontal, and then you have a number that are quite vertical. What's your take on what's going to happen as Zoom and Copilot get a little better? Do you think that these guys are going to fall off? Do you think those are going to have increasing penetration? Do you think these mid-tier vertical players are going to be able to hold out? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, recently we heard Jump purchased Mobile Assistant. Elements went for sale because I can't speak into that very much, but it doesn't look that good. I think a lot of these companies are going to struggle. I think that they'll either get purchased by someone that's being able to capture market share faster, or they'll stay on for a while and then maybe fall off. Ben Olson said like only 3 of them are going to make it. So nobody knows the future, but I don't think it's going to stay with this much variety for too long. It's going to be like the cereal aisle in Walmart or something.
Right. Yeah, I think, well, some of these are horizontal, to be clear, right? Grain, Fathom, Fireflies. So they're going to have a lot of different ways to win.
True. No, those are outside the industry. It is so hard making maps in this space because you've got tools that like some advisors are using Asana and Monday.com and Notion and
Right.
Tally and like, but then most advisors, the majority are using advisor specific tools. So obviously the ones outside the industry will do fine. I mean, they have a much bigger market. I think it's within the industry that we'll see either companies get bought or fall off.
Well, so the counter to that is that only 18% of advisors are currently using note takers. So we're still super early. It's not like it feels saturated to us because we're sort of swimming in this water, but there are a lot of people who haven't even jumped into the pond yet. And so I guess I could imagine there could be a lot of different things happening going forwards. I don't count out Copilot and Zoom, but I know definitively I have no problem saying this horrible quality, right? At this point, just really bottom of the barrel quality. They don't need to invest very much in it. And so it's actually great from the perspective of giving people something to start with, and then they always want more.
Yeah.
I find the psychological hurdle of having a bot in the meeting is often the biggest impediment. And then, of course, some of the compliance concerns people have.
That's a
I actually
huge
feel,
that's a
yeah,
huge conversation right there. Because as you move up,
absolutely.
as your clients don't want bots in their meetings, or the like high net worth clients. The majority of my meetings, I don't want a bot in the meeting. So it is super interesting. If advisors can't force their clients to let there be a bot in the meeting, they are still going to have to do manual note taking, which is interesting.
Well, do you think that could go two ways, right? Either the clients get more comfortable because it just becomes more normalized.
Right.
Maybe the UI gets a little better within Zoom and Meet or in Teams. Or the other way they can go is that people start using desktop note takers where they just say they're recording it, but there's no bot in the meeting.
Yeah,
Which do
I
you,
love that, honestly. I mean,
yeah,
Vegamind's basically is just pulling from the Zoom API after the fact. So you still record it using Zoom, but there's not like a separate bot that people see.
right.
Continuum Contio by Aaron Klein is going to be a desktop app. I personally don't like desktop apps. I like having it on the browser, but there's definitely something there.
What do you think is stopping if the clients are preferring no bot in the meeting? What do you think is stopping people from using desktop apps here?
So they just hit record and the client doesn't know that they're recording, basically.
I assume, depending on your jurisdiction, you're telling the client,
Right.
I'm using a note taker in the background, but is less in your face UI. I think that's my understanding is that's basically the thing is they just want it to be something that is in the background. I know here in Silicon Valley, Granola has really taken off as a tool to do this because
Yeah.
VCs don't want to put a bot in the meeting with the founder, but they definitely have the leverage to say, I use a note taker in the background. I hope you're okay with that, right? It just feels different. I guess it hits different. So yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I like that. I like the idea of
yeah,
recording it natively on like Zoom, Teams. School now has native recording, which is pretty sweet. And then you can always upload the video later to your AI overlay of choice, and it will parse all the information it needs out of it.
right. Or the AI overlays create desktop apps, right? That's also possible, right? Which I think has happened with a few. You mentioned Vega Minds, right? I think does Quinn have a desktop app, or I know Quill does. There's so many different ones here.
Continuum does, Vegamind's, Contio does, which I don't have on here. That's a very interesting play by the team from Riskalyze, which, I mean, they say they're not a AI note taker, but it seems like an AI note taker to me.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what Quantio is for the people who aren't that familiar with it.
I mean, so they're calling themselves Meeting OS. I don't know if I can find it offhand. Yeah, I'm actually logged in, but it's a desktop app, but it's basically, it basically records meetings. There's some meeting prep and then there's some meeting follow up. But their branding is very much like we're not an AI note taker. We're not another bot in the meeting. So I guess that is the whole desktop play.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it now. We're building powerful AI to kill agonizing meetings. Most meetings are awful. AI note takers make it worse. So definitely the anti note taker
Yep.
positioning, right? And if so, effectively, if I understand correctly, this is a desktop app that does your note taking without the bot in the meeting and does more than that as well. Is that your understanding?
There's more like you build agendas as opposed to just like us producing a meeting prep. I think that you can actually like build agendas and maybe even communicate around the agenda during the meeting. So almost a little bit like what if you have a meeting in Teams, you kind of have the agenda thing off on the side where you can take notes and do action items yourself. So that's kind of a combination of the two.
I see. So the agenda drives the meeting. Is that the way to think about it? Like
Yeah,
you're
almost like an EOS style meeting.
interesting.
But
That's
yeah, it
interesting.
was
And so they're not out yet, right? I guess you got early access, but
yeah,
they're
no,
not.
I got beta access. I signed an NDA and I'm not sure what I can say or what I can't say, but
No, it's all good. I'm sure they appreciate the exposure.
yeah.
Everyone here can join the early access list and check it out. So yeah, I guess maybe just to wrap it up here, if an advisor is sitting there thinking, should I renew my CRM or should I renew my note taker or should I use one of these new AI overlays? Outside of the obvious answer, which is it depends. What's your current thinking of how they should think about that decision?
So like specifically, and I've been asked this, like, should I use Jump or would
Right.
you recommend Jump? And I think that is like, if you are on Wealthbox and you have access to Wealthbox's note taker, like I'd absolutely give that a try first. If you already custody it Altruist and you can get access to Hazel, like definitely give Hazel a try first. If you're on Redtail and you have no idea when Redtail is going to roll out a note taker, then like, yeah, go for Jump or go for one of the other options. If you're really small, I would say like give Slant a try because I think Slant's going to be awesome. It's obviously small and building rapidly, but
Is Slant on your list here? I don't see it.
no, Slant's not. I mean, Slant is much more CRM than AI note taker. I think that, yeah, they should probably be added to the list. But the question is, how much time do I want to spend updating the spreadsheet?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you should definitely open it up for anyone to comment and you'll
Yeah,
get people suggesting additions, right?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I guess, okay, so here's actually the interesting thing that may happen. So, in a scenario where the CRM stop allowing note takers API access and bundle their own note taker in, what is the future of note takers? And is that something advisors should be concerned about, that scenario?
That would definitely create some emergency meetings.
Yeah. More pods coming.
I mean, Wealthbox and Redtail have taken huge pride in how many integrations they have. And for them to turn a whole category off, that doesn't seem like what they would do. I don't know. I mean, potentially they'll just limit it. Is it
Yeah, I
possible
mean,
they just limit
I
it?
think there's, I do think there's like some nuance here, right? They could make some restrictions within their API terms that make it much more difficult for the note takers to be very successful on their own,
Yeah.
right? They can create incentives for people to use their bundled note taker by changing their API terms, right? Like for example, you can never pull from previous meeting notes and transcripts into your own AI note taker, right? Just as one example, because there's the obvious thing, which is that all these AI note takers push the CRM, so they have no data moat, right? There's no lock in because you can use a different AI note taker every week, and all the data is always in the CRM. Right. So I can imagine some restrictions that make it much more difficult and give people an incentive to use the embedded note taker instead of the third party note taker. That could happen.
Yeah. No, it will be very interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, I suppose it depends how much they see them as a threat. Like, how much of a threat is Jump to Wealthbox? And Jump would like to say that it's no threat at all. But like you're saying, with Cognicore, like, is there a future where you don't need Wealthbox anymore because you have everything you need in Jump?
I think it really depends on the timing. I think in the short term, everyone's going to be subscribed to everything. I think in the next 2 or 3 years, there is going to be this Hunger Games of SaaS and there's going to be a pretty heavy rationalization. And honestly, we just don't know how this is going to pan out. It's really wide open. I do think there's something interesting that Ian Erard from JP Morgan said as a
Yeah.
comment
I love that string.
in your thing. Yeah. So I'd have to pull it up, but the gist of what he was saying was, you know, this is not, well, actually, I can pull it up quickly here. So this is probably the best way I want to give him his due here. he says this is Ian Erard, who, if I understand correctly, is a product director of wealth management at JP Morgan, head of AI for advisor platform experiences. So presumably someone who spends a lot of time in this area thinking about it. He says, literally feels like history repeating itself, an arms race to build more AI and integrations without solving the real issue of nothing talking, I presume he means to each other, which leaves advisors with partially integrated systems and no unified intelligence layer. So, really looking at a unified intelligence layer, which I think is really what you're suggesting these AI layer companies would do, right? The overlays. And I asked for clarification. He said, Jump AI, Hazel, Finney, all amazing and great for advisors. But until those AI talk and work with each other, they're the same siloed experiences advisors suffered from the past decade. Independent advisors want and deserve the same tools the big firms have, and they want choice, not a fancier version of a TAMP. So he's looking for intelligence as infrastructure for advisors, right? So is that an overlay or is that something else?
I mean, ideally, the CRM would become that, at least in my small-minded opinion. But I think something super interesting. I was talking to someone about compliance tools, and they're like, "Well, do the compliance tools archive the meetings? Because communications archiving has been around: texting, emails, LinkedIn posts, communications on Teams or something." But I haven't heard anyone talking about communications archiving tools archiving meeting notes. Because those would just end up in CRM or in the meeting note taker itself. And are those officially archived? That's
Well,
I
I
don't
think
know.
the CRM is officially archived. I mean,
Right.
books and records requires they save it. And I think people use the CRM as their system of record that
Yeah.
is their books and record compliant data store. That's my understanding of how that works.
So CRM is part of the communications archiving package or
Basically, but I
feature.
think you're implying if the CRM goes away or if something else is replacing it, they have to meet those criteria as well, right?
Right.
Which is pretty important.
So that gets back to the relationship operating system, which is all these communication methods have to sit somewhere eventually
Right.
for archiving
Right.
purposes.
Right. Absolutely. Well, interesting stuff. I think we're at time. So thank you very much for hopping on
Yeah.
really shortly. And where can people buy your stuff or learn more about you?
Advisortechbook.com is the main
Okay.
place, or just look me up on LinkedIn.
That's great. And you also run a thriving school network, right?
I've run a few schools. This is kind of a new one. It's all around the Advisor Tech Book branding. So that's
Got it.
school.com/Advisor Tech Book. But
That's
yeah,
very, very cool.
just to be honest, I got like for 4 or 5 months, I was like, this space is changing so fast. Like, how am I even going to keep up? But then eventually I was like, okay, let me get back into this and start trying to synthesize and write about it again. So that's kind of what's going on.
Well, I think we're really lucky you're getting back into it because I think you have really good takes. And, we appreciate you providing us tons of content for our podcast.
There we go.
We constantly look to you for takes. But yeah, please check out the website and thank you very much. And I will be at the Advisor AI show in Vegas over the next couple of days. And so if anyone is there, I'm happy to meet with them.
Sweet. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Joe. See you.